Welcome to the Deck Specialist Podcast for builders, designers, and deck pros pushing the limits of outdoor living. Get insider insights, advanced techniques, and strategies to grow your craft and your business. Because great decks build more than homes, they build reputations and memories. Get ready for something special, the Deck Specialist Podcast.
I just feel like an entirely different person. Just that interaction with the exterior, and just there's just nothing like it. It really does make you feel different. It really does change your world. It does get you excited to get up every morning and see something new. So,
well, it's interesting. Isn't that interesting how we don't give that enough validity, right? Like if Rob said right now, "Hey guys, I was having a bad day and I took a walk and I feel better," we'd be like, "Yeah, it checks out," right? Like we've all been there. Like you take a walk, but we don't get like you going to the beach, taking off your sandals, grounding yourself in that sand, smelling the fresh air, the sunlight, literally having the energy inside your body react with the soil of the earth, the sand of the earth. I mean, like we're all connected. It's in our DNA. We are designed to be outside.
A deck is only as good as what holds it up. ProWood's True Frame joist is built different. #1 grade, ground contact treated lumber for strength you can count on. Kiln dried for stability you can trust. And precision engineered for uniform sizing that saves you time. Get advanced framing performance without changing your tools or techniques. It's wood that just works. True Frame joist, consistency you can build on.
Welcome, guys. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Today, our guests on the Deck Specialist Podcast are Robert Hodichak and John Lee, and they are from the 33 North Design Collaborative and DeckSouth. And today we're going to sit down and talk a little bit about design and how they are leading the industry in terms of design and moving it forward. And so excited to have you guys on. I know that, we have worked together on different projects over the years, but it's really interesting to see what you're doing in terms of design, and to just to kind of understand a little bit more about what you guys are doing and how your business has progressed in the last few years. So if you would, could you introduce yourselves and kind of explain your experience in the industry and how you're working together today, and what's, what do your company dynamics look like?
You want to go first, Berto?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm John Lee, founder of a company called DeckSouth here in Marietta, Georgia. We started back in 1998. We, in the beginning, like so many others, I'm sure, we were building just decks, and it's evolved over the years to all things backyard. So our value add right now to our clients, and has been this way for the last 10 years or so, is really collaborating with them, partnering with them to design and build something pretty special in their backyard that is all inclusive. So DeckSouth is the design build side of our business. Robert and I partnered up and created 33 North Collaborative a few years ago that reaches out into the industry and helps, what we feel like helps others do what we were able to do with DeckSouth, and gain clients through the design build approach that we most likely would not have gained without that approach. And so, Rob, what are we up to now? 30, 35?
Yeah, about 35 contractors throughout North America, Canada, and the U.S.
Yeah. So that's what 33 North is, Sarah.
Okay. Well, can you tell me exactly what you're doing for these 35 contractors?
Yeah, I think mostly we're providing an opportunity to sell more in their project. And what that means is basically, like the picture behind me, it's a 3D rendering service where I get either sometimes very basic information or very elaborate, very detailed information sent to me from contractors throughout the country. And from there, I provide a design and rendering service. Some guys will utilize my design abilities and have me design everything. Some of them have very, very, kind of a mindset that they want to put their stamp on things. And with, some back and forth, we provide exactly what they're talking about. At least the idea of it is being able to show the customer what they're going to get before a shovel hits the ground. And, also potentially enhance their business by added elements of their project that will, potentially increase their revenue.
Okay. And so why are contractors reaching out to you? What do they gain by working with you as opposed to creating their own designs?
Rob, I know you've got some good responses there. Let me jump in real quick if you don't mind. Sarah, one of the things that I felt like, when Rob and I first started to work together, 2018, 2019, something along those lines. One of the things that was very evident right away was the ability, since the beginning of DeckSouth back in the late 90s, to sell a project, it was like, you'd grab your phone and go, hey, the rail's going to look kind of like this, but not really like that. And then the decking kind of like this. But if you can imagine you're throwing your hands up and you're pointing and you're doing all the stuff that we've all done for so many years and trying to paint a picture for the client in their backyard. Before Rob and I started working together, we were working with AutoCAD and just some basic stuff to kind of create some concepts. But with Rob's ability to literally paint a picture, and I call them 98 or 99ers. And when I say to clients, look, we're going to give you a design that is 98, 99% dead on accurate. We use technology like Hover to allow us to, for years before Hover, Rob would spend hours building the house. Because one thing that we learned early was Rob could build this beautiful design, but if we throw it on a white wall, the homeowner had a real tough time in understanding, what am I looking at? But once we showed it on their actual house, the radius head window is right there. The double doors are right there. The basement door is right there. Everything is scaled out properly. It leaves very little to the imagination. And so I think one of the things that when contractors reach out to 33 North, I think one thing that, and not speaking for them, but I do believe this is what they're thinking, is like, between Rob and I, we bring, 60 something years of experience where, it's not only the design side, but there's a build element of a really cool design's great, but it's got to be permittable. It's got to be structurally, designed so that it can be built, right? It can't just be something that is conceptual that can't be permitted, can't be built, and ultimately can't be completed, because then it's just a waste of time. So I think the long answer to your short question is like, I feel like there's probably a little bit of a combined understanding that Rob is certainly not just a designer that exists in the world of painting pretty pictures. It's actually building out a design and a concept that works. And so I think that's a big value add.
Well, let me ask you this. Of the designs that you're building, have you ever wanted to use your own designs on your own clientele? Meaning not, for those particular designs, like, oh, I love this idea. I wish I had thought about it for this previous project of DeckSouth or something like that. Has there ever been translation regarding your own clientele?
I think there's inspiration. I think we get inspiration from everywhere. I mean, right across the country, there's so many different perceptions of design and what suits a certain house. So I think bringing elements in from everywhere and having the ability to see almost everybody's different, the way they build. One of the key things I do when I first start working with somebody around the country is understand how they build. What materials are they using? What how's their foundation? How's their structure built? Understanding, the finer details, and some of those details do resonate to us. I think our DeckSouth designs are are very, very specific and very, set for the demographic that we have. But I mean, there are some times we get into some ultra modern places and it's like, hey, you know what? I did this over here. Why don't we try and do something similar to that over here?
Yeah, Rob. I mean, Sarah, I think if I understood your question, so when you say your designs, when I meet with a client here in the Southeast, whether it's Georgia or surrounding area, most of our work is right here in Metro Atlanta, but we go out a little bit for certain clients. It is our design, right? Like when Rob and I collaborate together after I've met with the client, we speak our own language, right? And the beauty of that is we can get to a design pretty quick without having to have a really, really long conversation. But whether it's looking at a backyard and understanding that, hey, look, that bay window that cantilevers out, we're gonna wrap around that, and we're gonna drop down so that the handrail is below the line of sight of the window. And then when we wrap around to the left side and we tie into the basement door, that's the flow that the homeowner uses as I talk to them and how they actually use the backyard. But the sun sets over here, so when we set our gable porch, we're gonna come off at a 45, not at a 90, because of whatever. So like those kind of things go into every single one of our designs. I mean, just an hour ago, Rob and I were talking about something, and I'm standing there next to the whiteboard and I'm drawing something, etch-a-sketching something and shooting it with my phone so that we're on the same page. And it's like, oh yeah, that's what we're going to. And so we're constantly doing that. I think the thing that probably was weird for most people when they first heard us working together, like, how does that work so many miles away from each other? You're in Georgia, you're in Canada, outside of Toronto area. And like, how does that work? And so for us, what happened years and years and years ago is I had a teammate here in Georgia, and we lived about an hour and a half away. He lived about an hour and a half from the office, and we saw very little of each other because of our schedules. But yet we worked really well together, and that was, 15, 18 years ago. When it was time for Rob and I to work together, the reality of what technology does and the gap that it closes was like, okay, well, we don't necessarily need to, proximity-wise, be in the same room. And in some regards, it helps, right? Like Rob's lab, where he's sitting right now, the quote-unquote DeckSouth office in Canada, I mean, that's, that serves him very well on days that we've got stuff going on around the office here that really, quite honestly, is just a distraction. Whether it's an employee that's having a bad day, whether it's whatever situation that's going on here at the office, like it's kind of cool that Rob is a little bit pulled away from that. But anyway, the short of it is, like, I think that with technology today, the ability for us to communicate in real time it just bridges that gap in a way in which it doesn't really matter where we are. We can still collaborate on everything.
Yeah, there's times that we're using company cam. He's out there taking pictures of a job site, and I'm hovering or looking at company cam at the time or whatever. And I said, hey, can you go over a little bit more to the right and take a few more pictures of that space so I can kind of see how the roof lines match it up, So it's kind of real time in many cases besides just our phones. And
now, the first time that happened, it was very weird. I'm getting back in the truck, Sarah, and I'm literally about to leave this property. And he calls me. He's like, hey, man, listen, can you go back there? And I'm like, how are you? Like, it's like real big brotherish, right? But like, we use company cam, right? So as I'm taking all these photos, they're shooting up to the cloud. He's looking at them and realized, hey, look, I need a photo. Go back there to that other tree and shoot it from that angle instead of the other one. So yeah, kind of cool how technology works today in the ability to communicate.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, not being on site, is that difficult to really get the full picture and feel and be able to make adjustments on the fly? Has it posed any problems in that regard?
We're pretty good at getting a lot of photos and a lot of videos of the space while we're there. There are a lot of points of sight lines that I'd like to be able to see. Our biggest thing was when I was building out the houses itself from scratch, is being able to see how the actual existing roof lines go, what pitch that is and whatnot. And then some of the exterior landscape that's around. Depending on what our scope of work is, sometimes you could fudge a couple things here and there, and it's not that big of a deal. But sometimes every action has a reaction. So when you're looking at the bigger picture or what the client is looking to do long term, if they're adding a pool, landscaping, or whatever that might be, it did at times pose an issue. But now again, with technology and the way we utilize it, between using Google to translate what our ground is, and if I get a clear picture that way, or even taking a drone up sometimes just to look down and see what I could see from that space. We've been able to accomplish quite a few goals that way, and I don't think we missed too far off the mark, from being this far away from each other.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that we do a pretty darn good job in being able to capture so obviously, Sarah, my job, whether it's me or David or from the office that's meeting with the client, our job is to obviously get with the client and connect with them, right? Like really understand, what are you looking to do, right? And so if with that information, if I can't accurately get that back to Rob, then yes, there's a limitation there, right? We certainly know that. So it's my job to make sure that I am able to, lay everything out on paper, so that I can capture everything that Rob needs through photos, videos, audio, hand drawing, right? So it all kind of starts there, right? The basics. Again, back in the beginning of all this, in early 90 or late 90s, early 2000s, every design I did was on vellum, 11 by 17 vellum, right? With the scale and it all. And if it didn't fit there, it certainly didn't fit in the backyard. And so I always think in terms of 2D, top down. And so getting that over to Rob has happened in all kinds of different ways, right? Whether it's on full blown DeckSouth graph paper that we have, whether it's on the whiteboard in the other room there, where I'm doodling that and taking a photo of it, turbo scan, whatever. But yeah, I mean, is there limitations? Sure. Are they? Can they be easily overcome? Yeah, they can. But I think that goes with all outdoor living professionals, right? We meet with the client. We've got to fully understand what they want to do, and then be able to create that in a design, translate what they're saying, what we can do for them, and then bring that back to them in a package that says, look, this is what I understood you wanting to do. Now we've taken it to maybe a few steps past that. We're painting the bigger picture. Like I'm real big, and so is Rob on we call it a master design, right? We're back in 2014 was our first project that we ever phased. And I think so many folks in our industry could probably say the same thing here. When you hear from a client, hey, I'm going to call you back for the next, you're like, yeah, sure you are. Not really knowing if they're ever going to call you back. But for the first time that happened in 2014, where we did a project, the project was too big for the budget, so we phased it out. And then later on, we came back for a phase 2. And so a lot of our clients actually do that today, right? So, the goal is, and I always ask the client, like, where do we want to be in 3 years? Where do you want this backyard to be in 3 years? Well, number one is the porch and the deck, and I'd love a patio and an outdoor fire pit with a kitchen, and ultimately my wife would love a pool. Okay, cool. But we don't need to talk about the pool right now. Okay, no problem. But when I come back with the design, guess what's in it? A pool, right? And it works together. So Rob and I have talked about, okay, look, when we phase this out, phase 1 could be the porch and the deck. Phase 2 could be the patio and the kitchen. Phase 3 could be the pool. But let's present it to the client so that it's doable in a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year span, where they're not having to tear out stuff to build stuff, right? So it's the grand plan that, sometimes we call it, the menu, knowing what the ultimate end goal, the ultimate, the recipe for the menu, I should say, ultimately what the menu, what the meal is going to look like because of the recipe, knowing that it's the start to finish, the full phase. So yeah.
Well, I think all variables too are highly involved in a full scale design, and understanding sight lines, understanding how people are going to be using that space. I mean, there's so many times you walk in and it's like they have a deck, but then the reality to it, it's like, well, it's disconnected from the rest of the yard. in one way or another. And I think that's kind of why we do what we do and how we do it. So,
yeah.
Well, that kind of begs the question. So you're dealing with the homeowner, figuring out what the menu is, right? The grand plan. But if you're designing on behalf of another builder, what involvement are you working with in terms of the homeowner? Are you actually talking to the homeowner about the design and about their grand plan? Or is that strictly when you're doing the building yourself?
With 33 North, do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Rob, I think you can answer this.
Yeah, I think I'd say 99% of the time I'm dealing with the contractor. So the contractor is the order taker per se. So it's ultimately his vision, with some, surprise elements that he may ask me or they may ask me to do. With that being said, in a lot of cases, it's all asking the right questions. And, once they start asking the right questions and they start to get to know me a little bit more, they might ask a few more extra questions to evolve. But the reality to it is, I think out of all the time with 33 North, I've done maybe 3 phone calls with conjunction with the actual homeowner involved in that conversation. The reality to it is, most of these guys are good enough that they know what they want to sell. They know how they're going to build it, and it's really ultimately their vision that I'm just trying to help them achieve and maybe make a few extra dollars.
Have you ever had a builder that has changed your design or pushed your design to change, maybe in a positive way or a negative way for that?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, a lot of builders have a certain way that they build. So, and with their comfortable buildings, I can design from the elite of the elite to the beginner. And with that is understanding where they stand in between it. So sometimes it's one of those things that you just need to understand their building and how they built, a few visits to their website and whatnot. I think the bigger picture is, has it pushed it and take it to a different level? Yeah, it's sometimes like, we kind of talked about California, and a lot of times there's just some back and forth that goes on, and there's some synergy that goes on, and it's like, hey, we can do this and we can do that, and it's like, or I want to have this kind of feel, and it does take it takes just a pretty picture and just something that's going to become real. And that is our back and forth. That's how John and I work right from the beginning.
Well, when you're working with contractors of different regions and you yourselves are in different areas, how have you become kind of a master of all areas so that you can work with 35 different contractors, which I'm assuming across the, different parts of the country as well as into Canada. So have you become a master of all different regions?
I try to learn, what's hot and what's not in all those different regions. I mean, I do have a substantial experience even before working with John and us creating 33 North, where I was doing something similar to this, not to this scale, but, designing throughout, I've designed out in the Caribbean, I've designed, throughout the US, and those different understanding what is the certain look and what is the architecture of that area. I mean, there is some research that gets involved, it's not just cookie cutter and not just the simple decks. Some guys like to get very, very elaborate. I come from, before John, one of the guys I used to design for was very over the top. A lot of aerial structures, a lot of curved decks, a lot of bells and whistles. That do they need to be there or not be there? It's questionable, but at least that was his style, and that's it's understanding what they like doing and how they want to sell their projects.
Yeah, because I'm thinking you're talking about California. California has, some restrictions in terms of what materials can be used, on where those homes are, and and so I would imagine you would have to not only understand the architecture and the design of the area, but you would also have to know what materials can and cannot be used, or should not be used depending on where that home is located.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah, I think one of those things is also making sure that, when 33 North was created, Rob and I both said, this isn't going to be for everyone, and we're not going to be able to help everyone. So we wanted to make sure that we partnered up with others that had a similar approach to their business, right? That really did want to change their clients' lives, like add, not just chase a number, not just chase a dollar, but do something a little different, right? So when Rob's designing for a contractor in Greenville, South Carolina, it's certainly or Savannah, Georgia, it's certainly a whole lot different than Sacramento, California, or San Diego, California, right? But I think part of that is understand, like when there are contractors in California that are a client, they've got to give some guidance along the lines of, what does the product selection look like that they want included in there? For our designs for DeckSouth, like the evolution of it is in the creation prior to contract is it goes from the 3D design, then we go to architectural plans, then we go to engineering that stamps the architectural plans, then we go to permitting, and then we ultimately start the project. But that's for the state of Georgia, right? Like we have an insurance policy that covers us for, like, we're going to design something for you, but you've got to be smart about how this is going to come together for your permit office, right? Like we can create structural plans, but our engineer is licensed in Atlanta, Georgia. He's not licensed in San Diego, California. So we stay away from the liability side of getting into structural plans, right? It's something we've toyed with, but it just doesn't seem to make sense because as you know, I'm sure you're very aware of, every state has different criterias with code. I mean, just here in Metro Atlanta, we permit in 21 different municipalities, and every single one has just a little bit different tweak to it, right? And so I know California is very stringent as well. So there's a part of the creative licensing side of this of making sure that the 3D design that Rob puts together has a layer of protection from a liability standpoint, working with a contractor that's then going to go and professionally engineer it, get it stamped, get it permitted, and then take it from there.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, even with choice of materials too. I mean, some of our questions that we ask at the beginning is, what brand of materials do you like using? What railing system do you like using? If there's an overhead structure, what brand is that? And try to really fit what they're comfortable using. So it makes a big difference.
Do you guys have a particular contractor or project in mind, or how do you select your design clients? Is there a specific price range of the project, or?
Yeah, Rob, I don't think, I can't remember Rob and I ever having a conversation where it was like, that's just not going to be our client. There are, and Rob can speak to this probably for hours, but there are clients that are easier to work with than others. And that goes back to communication, right? So some have worked their way out of the fold for sure, because they're just too difficult to work with. Life's too short to work with difficult clients. All clients are not equal, no matter what line of business we're in. That's just the truth of it all. And anyone that says different is not being truthful. But I don't know, Rob, have we ever, I don't even know that we've ever said there's a criteria that we got to put them through.
Yeah, no, I think it's a feel and an understanding of what they're looking to do. We, like everybody, we like working with like-minded individuals, so in reality to it, it's the people are wanting to do something different, wanting to enhance their business a little bit more. As the homeowner, if they're going to be in front of the homeowner and that homeowner is very difficult to deal with, I know of a couple of them, got challenged a few times because they were very difficult to deal with. That's on them to fire their client, if they have to. So I think it's how much they're willing to take on the 33 North side of the business. For us, our clients are a very specific type of client that understands what we do and how we do it, and they're buying into the DeckSouth brand and what we do as a team, and the overall picture of the end result. So I think the reality to it is our clients for DeckSouth are completely different, and it's on the onus of the client for 33 North to keep their client in check, per se.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, one of the things that I think is a filter for that is because everything's been organic with 33 North. We've never gone out and advertised. We've never tried to, pound our chests about it and say, hey, this is what's going on. It's truly been word of mouth. And so part of that vetting process is just having these one-off conversations with guys and girls in the industry around the country that are wanting to really truly have a design build approach. Because the thing about this is it's not just a design. Like when you're a design build company, you think different, walk different, speak different, act different. It's a different DNA. It's not just, oh, I'm going to design here or there. When you're a design build company, it doesn't matter what size the project is. You design first, and that drives everything. Period. End of story. There's no, well, I'm going to kind of design here and not. Then you're not a design build company. And I'm not throwing stones at anyone. I'm just simply saying it changes when you change your approach. And so you also attract different clients. You attract clients that understand that with a design, there's a user experience from the client side that puts a sense of peace into the whole process. They understand what's going to take place. There's no misinterpretation of, oh, I know they said a set of 180 stairs over there, but now that they're built, I didn't really think they were going to have 12 on the bottom and only 6 above the landing. I thought it was going to be more like 9 and 9 and come out to like, there's none of that because the design is there first that everyone's high-fiving on. We all put our hands in, ready, break. Okay, now we're going to go build this. And it's exactly what we designed you. So I think part of gaining the clients on the 33 North side is meeting those that understand that, see the value in that, and then are able to go charge for that and find the right clients. So we've mentioned a few times the right client. I think what happens for us, or has happened for us, that we learned early on was with the design build approach, you do attract a different client. Because not everyone sees the value in it, right? Like some, they just want a deck I just want a 16 by 22 deck with my grill on it. Okay, cool. I get it. There's plenty of folks that can build that, and maybe you don't need a design for that. And so someone coming to the table with a design build approach that may have a little bit more additional cost in the pre-construction phase of the build, maybe they just don't see the value in that. So then for us on the DeckSouth side, those clients don't seem to show up much, right? Because from the initial call into the office, we explain, how our approach is not comparing it to anyone else's, don't care what anyone else's approach is in our marketplace. This is our approach, and this is how we go about it. And so there's kind of a natural vetting process that goes on there anyway. And I kind of think, if I look back along the last handful of years, Rob, I kind of think that's how it kind of came together with our clientele so far with 33 North. I know one thing, Sarah, Rob and I never sat down and said, we're going to be the biggest, baddest design. Like it was just simply, I think we can do this. We can help others grow their business the way we were able to grow DeckSouth's business.
I think that's how our whole intent was, hey, we've got something here. Why don't we find a way to help other guys around the country do so? And again, that's just because our industry as a whole is such a close network of people anyways. So I think, people get it in when we see each other at shows or if we're at different events, it's one of those things that people understand. Yeah, I want to get that much better. And this is how we're going to do it. So us being able to offer something like that to help them get there, that was the whole, I think, intent of what John and I wanted to do at the beginning with creating 33 North.
Yeah. That makes sense. Are you guys surprised by your success? I mean, obviously your name's attached to a lot of awards, particularly last year.
Um, I hope this doesn't. No, the short answer is no. I mean,
and at the end of the day, having an award, I don't think we actually have an intent to win awards. If they win an award, that's great, and we appreciate it, and it is an honor. But the reality to it is, I don't think we ever intend to try and win an award.
Yeah, and look, yeah, 100%, Rob, and Sarah. My no is not intended to sound arrogant at all. It simply is. For me, I've always felt like when a human being, and I can only speak for myself, but when we as humans give passionately and intentionally our gift to the world, whatever that is, whether it's cooking a meal, whether it's building a deck, whether it's designing a backyard, whether it's asphalting a road, I don't care what it is. When you intentionally go at it with everything you got, good things happen, and so no one ever should be surprised with their success when they approach life that way. Whether it's coaching a baseball team or building a deck or whatever we do, right? So the awards were never part of it. I think those are just awesome icing on the cake, recognition from peers. And there's so many good ones around the country that when that's happened, Rob and I have had, 5 minutes of high five, awesome. And then let's get back to work. Yeah.
Do you think that design companies are changing the landscape of the industry in terms of what builders are capable of doing or seeing or envisioning? And how do you think that's going to change the industry going forward?
I think it's the artistic value of what a designer gives. Some contractors, not all, but some contractors are nuts and bolts, boards and they're phenomenal at building a structure and putting it all together. It's fine carpentry or whatever that might be. Being able to show a different way of doing that. I think some of these design firms that are out there, and including ourselves, we kind of take it to a different level, because showing a picture beforehand, we can tweak and enhance that what was just going to be a deck at one time now into something very, very special for that family and that, and that builder himself. Says, hey, I never thought I thought about that. It's like, well, here's, you're seeing it on paper first, and it's not costing you anything. It's only costing you my time compared to costing you, ripping out a board and changing a board or changing the structure like mid swing. So I think that's a huge advantage for, having a design firm help out.
Yeah. And it doesn't, even if it's not a design firm, like, the question about, do you think design or changing even if it's a very elementary design that someone's putting together, that's at least a really good start to paint a picture to create buy-in, right? Like, I don't care what anyone says, whether it's a $25,000 deck, a $250,000 deck, or a $1.25 million backyard. Everything we do is an emotional buy. It's all emotions. It's 100% emotions. And so when you can get a client to buy into the build before the shovel goes in the ground, then there's a level of commitment that you can't get without the design, right? And so I think what's going to happen, I hope, is that as we continue to design more and more, as there continue to be more designers coming onto the landscape of outdoor living, it's only going to raise the bar, right? What's that saying? High tides raises all ships. I mean, I think, imagine, like, okay, there was a day in which, and I'm the old guy in the room now, right? But there's a day in which, like, $100,000 deck was outrageous, right? And that's just, those are a dime. I mean, they're all over the place now, right? So, my first house that I bought in the mid '90s was $106,000, right? And I guarantee you, when that house was built, it wasn't built without a set of plans. But yet, decks are being built all day long without a set of plans and just, kind of going by the seat of their pants. And I understand that on the DIY side, but on the contractor side, I think we have an obligation to the industry and to the client to really approach it differently and truly change what's going on, so that. My hope is that, when my 13-year-old son one day is in the company, the idea that there's building going on without plans is like, what? That used to happen? I mean, people used to just what? Like, again, we could talk about home building and think, was there ever a house built without a set of plans? I'm sure there's
just going to go down that road. That's exactly it.
Right. I mean, you can't so my hope is that one day that is looked at in our industry. So, the desire would be that, more and more designers show up, more and more builders use design firms, so that the game can be elevated.
We are building an extension off of people's homes. So, I mean, a lot of the elements on a deck, if it's a porch, screened-in room, or whatever that might be, these are all parts of a house. So, like John said earlier, it's like you would never build a house, or it'd be really not the smartest thing in the world to do by building a house without a set of plans. It's even like, building a house without a foundation, putting the foundation in backwards, it's just, you have to do it. And I think for what we offer and what people are building nowadays, they are these additional rooms to bring the inside out.
Yeah. Sarah, the other side of this that we haven't really touched on is the client understanding what they're getting, right? Like, years ago, we had a customer that said, "Hey, John, I got the invoice for the design," and I laughed. I said, "Why?" He's like, "I would have paid you $10,000 for that." I'm like, "Where's my phone? Can you say that? Can I put that in?" Like, what? And he's like, "Look, I love my wife, Michelle. But like the design that you guys gave me, and when I look at it and I look at the backyard and it's exactly the same." During the build, when my wife would say, "Hey, where's the handrail? Look at the design. What color is the deck? Look at the design. Where do the stairs hit in reference to the patio? And look at the design." You saved me 20 hours of headache conversation explaining what was going to happen when I could just refer to the design. And for the first time, it showed me, like, I turned around and saw it from the client's user experience, right? And realized, oh my gosh, wow, that there's a level of calm peace that exists when you're working from a design that the end result is going to be that exact design. So I think as clients see more value in that, they're going to request that. In an Amazonian world that we have, where you push a button and you can have a leather couch sitting at your front door by 4 p.m. the following day, we're getting a client that's got a little bit different expectation level. And so I think it's our job as professionals to lean into that, heed that call, and figure out the best way to service that client. And that client's only going to get a little less patient, and B, a little more what they think educated. And AI is obviously playing a little bit of part in that as well.
I was actually going to ask you how it played into your design work, and does it lead wrong directions ever?
Yes. It is. Your AI is only as good as what you put into it. So if you can't articulate what you want, then you're going to get something completely different, and so it will only do what you're telling it to do. And so I find it's good for inspiration. It's good for a generic idea of what might be happening in the space. But I mean, I've seen some really strange things, even when I've used AI just to enhance some of my renders. And that's kind of where the only way that I'm using it right now, maybe adding people or something like that. Sometimes it will take, it will completely change the design itself, and put a staircase where there was never going to be a staircase, in the wrong spot. It just doesn't understand those elements and flow and space. So I think we're a long way of really capitalizing on what AI can do. But I think it really comes down to who's putting in the effort of dialing in the information that you're going to input into the AI system.
Yeah, and I think on the homeowner side, what enables them to do is conceptually paint a picture for whoever's in their backyard. Like, instead of going, "Hey, I want this deck to come out here and kind of wrap around, and I want one of those one of those flat things that goes on top of the thing, that other thing that goes around the other thing, and they don't know, right? They're not. And I'm like, hold on, time out. So in our world, you have to do some defining. Okay, without a roof, it's a deck. With the roof, it's a port. And so I think what's helping it with AI is they grab their phone and go, hey, look at this. And you go, oh, okay. Now, none of that makes sense because the lower deck is hovering with no posts. And, the upper deck, the threshold of the door is actually, 6 inches, whatever, right? But it gives us as contractors, I think it compresses time a little bit to say, oh, that's what you're looking for. Okay, let me take that concept and really put a human element to it and design you something that A, can be built, B, can be permitted, and hopefully C, sits inside your budget, right? So I think utilizing AI as a help is makes a lot of sense, but I don't see it replacing what we're doing, for some time, if ever. So
I think what we're doing, and when we're creating spaces, we're creating an emotion and a feeling to the homeowner too. So how they're going to use space, how they're going to entertain, it's stuff that, unless you're very, very good at articulating that, I still don't think I can't envision AI understanding that emotional side yet,
So at this point, if I'm understanding you correctly, AI is not a competitor of your business, of your design business, nor do you anticipate that, if ever.
No, I think it's a tool and an enhancement. I think there's ways to utilize it as an enhancement aspect, but I don't think it'll ever be a competitor, and that for a long time. Never is too much of a word, but I think there's a human element that people need to, kind of. There's too much still going on that needs to take place for it to replace a designer.
Yeah, I think we can never say never, right? We don't have a crystal ball, but I think that the shortcoming of whether it's the new Claude design, certainly Chat, Banana, all those. I mean, the shortcoming is going to be ultimately a workable conceptual design. That, for example, when Rob designs in SketchUp, like when Tyler takes it to the architectural side of things, he pulls directly from SketchUp. The dimensions are there, right? They're not. It's not like a concept that it's like, is that 12 feet or is it 13 or like, right? So when Rob's designing inside SketchUp, the absolutes are there, the statics are there, right? They're not dynamic and floating in the ethers, and so I think with AI, again, the concept's there. Hey, so that's okay. What you're describing there is called a porch, ma'am. That's what a porch is with the roof, and yes, ma'am, that's a gable roof line. And so I think it helps us get to a concept quicker, and certainly it's better than Chuck in the truck showing up with with his tool bag, and Home Depot delivers some material, and he's like, hey, I'll build you something, and no one knows what. So I think it could replace his just cocktail napkin scenario on the DIY side of things, but to replace a very high end, high quality, well thought out, meticulous, intentional design that checks all the boxes of how the family lives, where the sun sets, where the line of sight is. Symmetry, biophilic design that is actually adding value to their lives. I think AI is not there. When it can be, no clue. But I'm never going to say never.
Okay. Well, given that, Robert, you've obviously built a lot of designs and created a lot of concepts. What would your ideal outdoor space look like? Like if you could just create the carte blanche, and there's no money attached, you just get to do whatever you want to do, what would that look like?
Yeah, that is actually a great question. I like bringing in every aspect of, I guess you would call it actually biophilic design. We discussed that. It's a common word around our office, but I mean, being able to bring people outside and utilize that space, depending on no matter what part of the country you're in. If you're in the north, having a space that you can still go outside, and you've got heaters inside a porch. So having a porch, a deck. I do like houses with a basement walkout, so that you kind of have this dry space underneath. bringing in a pool, a water element, bringing in some gardens, to have some greenery and some hidden little gems, maybe near a fire pit or something like that. There's so much that can go on. Personally, one of my favorites is just choices of materials. If it's beautiful concrete work or tile work, porcelain tiles, cistern tiles to low maintenance materials. I think there's so much that I get excited about. And what the biggest thing is really the architecture of the house. The architecture of the house dictates to me what I want to do on that space. So I think the reality to it, it's there, to not follow that architecture is a sin in my world, so making it complement and work better for the family and the homeowner or myself, if it was for my own place, I think it's, that's a key element, because anything can be done, but some things just don't look right in that space if you don't follow, certain guidelines and rules.
So you're letting the house kind of talk to you and kind of shape the design.
I used to always joke about that. I used to say, the house talks to me, just take some clear, full out pictures of the back of the house, show me some of the yard, and the house will talk to me.
Yeah, I think that's where design comes from.
Yeah.
John, what has kept you excited in the industry all these years?
Working with Rob. All these, that's a great question. Without sound and rainbows and unicorns here, it's changing lives. And I'm echoing what a client said years ago. We were talking, and I said, Jim, he's like, is everybody pushing to try to get done before Christmas? I said, yeah, but we're not out here, saving lives like doctors. And he's like, you know what? You guys don't save lives, but you do change lives. And let me tell you how you changed my life. And he goes into this whole thing, and it was like a light bulb went off. And years later, I was on a podcast with Joe Raboyne, and he goes, you know what he was saying? You know what Jim King was saying? And I said, no, I don't. What he's saying is that the biophilic side of that space that you guys built changes his life. It changes the way his body feels in that space. And there's research behind it. So that's when I kind of went down a rabbit trail and really tried to understand what biophilic, bend would be in a design element. And so Rob and I, it's really a big piece of what we do. But so for me, it is getting those texts on a Saturday, dinner time, where it's like a photo of a client utilizing the space and going, still loving it. And it's a year or two later, putting a smile on client's face and really understanding that we're doing more than just building something. We're creating spaces that literally change the way our clients feel when they use those spaces, and ultimately that changes their lives. And so that's what gets me up in the morning.
I love that. I just recently moved to the beach, and so
Wow.
I grew up near the beach, and I moved back to the beach just recently. And I'll tell you what, I just feel like an entirely different person. Just that interaction with the exterior, and just there's just nothing like it. It really does make you feel different. It really does change your world. It does get you excited to get up every morning and see something new. So,
well, it's interesting. Isn't that interesting how we don't give that enough validity, right? Like if Rob said right now, hey guys, I was having a bad day and I took a walk and I feel better, we'd be like, yeah, it checks out, right? Like we've all been there. Like you take a walk, but we don't get like you going to the beach, taking off your sandals, grounding yourself in that sand, smelling the fresh air, the sunlight, literally having the energy inside your body react with the soil of the earth, the sand of the earth. I mean, like we're all connected. It's in our DNA. We are designed to be outside. We're not designed to be in a square box with artificial light hammering our eyeballs. We are designed to be outside, and we're designed to see fractal patterns. We're designed for symmetry. We're designed like that's what our brains are akin to. And I think there's other cultures that understand it immensely. right? That understand that in places of healing, there needs to be nature that's involved, right? There needs to be, you need to be inside nature to get truly healed. And so, what's kind of cool for us, I think, Sarah, and you as well in this industry is that, in the biophilic world of whether it's the California Cupertino Apple, headquarters, where at their new headquarters, every single space that people are working in has a biophilic bend to it, whether it's natural light or fractal patterns or natural fresh air, whatever. We're not trying to bring the outdoors in. We're trying to bring our clients outdoors and create spaces that pull them outdoors. Mm-hmm. So, whether it's line of sight from the kitchen window, whether it's standing in the backyard and having the golden ratio feeling of everything scaled out properly. I mean, you've walked into a room, you've walked into a space and you're like, yeah, this feels nice. And then you've walked into another space and you're like, I don't know why, but I feel just kind of really, I don't know, something about it doesn't feel right. And all that plays into it, right? And so understanding that we're designed to be outside, I think we can all take a page out of that book. And so I think we're lucky. I think we're lucky in our industry to be a part of something that hopefully fosters our clients to be outside.
I totally agree. And, you said it so eloquently, you could hear the passion behind what you're saying. This is not just something you're doing. This is something you really have, deep heart behind. And so, and I think that is reflected in your designs. I think that's why people gravitate towards them. So, as we wrap this up, I want to ask you both, what do you guys hope to see in the next maybe 10, 20 years in the industry, as things progress with whether it be AI or whether it just be design building companies or, your connection with homeowners? What would you hope to see if it was an ideal world?
Vera, you want to go?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think I think the projects and what can be done is always going to be surprising year after year. I think everybody inspires somebody. So whenever you see something out there, it only enhances the ability of what you're going to be able to do next. And honestly, even with AI, I think in AI, sometimes, what comes out with your, if they're asking the right questions, is pretty impressive. And it does some things that you're like, oh yeah, a little extra greenery here and all that might really enhance the space. I think bringing the whole aspect of landscape together, within the deck industry, the whole outdoor living space, and seeing that, I think that's what I'm excited to see. I've seen this evolution over the past few years. People really started to take that into perspective of what they're doing. And, it's not just this fancy little thing going off of the house. Now it's the whole yard, and the whole yard's being utilized. We used to, in the days going back 10, 15 years ago, I used to always go back to the back side of the yard and look at the house, but then do also the same thing from the house looking out. And I think once we find that connection, and I think guys now are starting to see that a little bit more in our industry, I think that's what really excites me, to bring that scale to the whole backyard. I always had a rule is if you don't show it, you don't know it, so sometimes being able to show that to people, they'll find money. People have an interesting way of finding money to get things that they want done, and again, in that phased in report approach or whatever that might be when we build things. But I think being able to see it is exciting for me. And I think being at what we do and how we provide, the stuff, I think technology is only going to make it even better if it's virtual, if it's, the virtual reality to, I don't even know, we don't even know what's capable yet. I think what's down the pipeline is being able to utilize the technology to be able to achieve those goals and make people visualize and see what they're getting even that much better.
Yeah, I would agree.
For me, Sarah, I think kind of to echo what Rob's saying, one of our goals always, at least here in the Atlanta area, is to tie the indoors out with the outdoors, right? Seamless living back and forth. And I would love to see that continue. We all, after 2020, I think everyone, we're reminded real quick the importance of being outside, whether that was forced outside or not. And Zillow for years after that said that the number one requested thing for new homeowners is outdoor living. And so as builders lean into that, no matter what the price model is for the home, really trying to marry the indoors with the outdoors as far as some seamless living there, right? And so in order to do that, and we're being intentional about it here, whether it's, open up the 3 windows that are there, pull that out, do a new header and do some slider doors or some accordion doors, get a space that you can literally let the fresh air come in. And now all of a sudden the kitchen doesn't just go through a 3-foot door to get out to the porch. It goes through a 9-foot opening. When that's completely open, it's like a cased opening. Now your kitchen space is doubled because your 20 by 20 kitchen now opens up to a 16 by 28 porch. And now you're conversing through the indoors and the outdoors, and right in the middle is the house wall. But when we open that up, it marries the two together. And then you tear down to a kitchen and you got to pull and all that. So we're being intentional with that here. I'd like to see that continue. And I think part of that is, allowing organizations like NADRA to continue to partner up with other outdoor living organizations, whether it be in the landscape industry or the pool industry. And I'd like to see more synergy, 10 years from now, where, these shows that we go to, they're not as segmented, but they really do truly offer value to the homeowner in all things outdoors, right? When you cross the threshold of the door, you leave the envelope of the home, then let's talk about it, right? And so I'd love to see that driven from the builder side. I'd love to see that driven from the manufacturer side. I'd love to see that driven from the trade organizations, the industry organizations, right? So we can collectively, ultimately service the end user, the homeowner, better.
Yeah, because when you step off the deck, you're not just stepping off into oblivion. So obviously there's still more, to the space. And so it would make sense that there would be more interaction between the different, types of industries that we represent in the outdoor space. I agree. And I hope to see that as well. And I think that's a really good point, actually. Well, I love the conversation, enjoyed learning more about what you guys are doing. And I can't wait to see what you guys present, well, we'll see it at NADRA, I'm sure, what you guys have been working on all year, but really excited. And thank you for sharing your insights and, what you guys are doing. I really appreciate it.
Sarah, thank you. It's been an honor.
Yes,
Thanks for
you.
It's been an honor as well. Thanks again, guys.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.